boys and girls. Welcome to your part 1 of your reading lesson today. I'm Mrs. Taima, and I'm excited to get started with you today. So today, in part 1 of your reading lesson, we are going to learn with Miss Spears about Cendrillon, and we are going to dive a little bit deeper into what kind of person she was. What is her character like? We did that with Cinderella, and we also did that with the fairy godmother. So today we're going to just dive deeper with Cendrillon. Then you are also going to be comparing and contrasting two pieces of artwork that are very similar by two different artists. Then I'm going to meet you back for part 2 to start talking about beginning focusing question task 1 for module 4. So don't forget to come back for part 2. I can't wait to see you. See you soon.
Hello friends, and welcome back to Wit and Wisdom in Sync. My name is Tanisha Spears and I'm excited to jump into our lesson for today. But before we do, let's make sure you have your materials ready. For this lesson, you will need handout 8A, which is the Focusing Question Task 1 Evidence Organizer. You'll need your Wit and Wisdom in Sync journal and a pencil. We will also be using Assessment 8A, Focusing Question Task 1, but I'll show that to you on the screen. Pause the video now if you need to gather your materials. In previous work, you had an opportunity to make observations about a new Cinderella text, and you thought about how the structure of an opinion statement works. Today, you will take a closer look at characters and character traits. Okay, let's go back to some artwork that we have previously looked at. Remember, we have been working with two different versions of first steps, and that this is the drawing by Millet. I want you to think, what colors does Millet use in this drawing? Think. Share with a learning partner or just share aloud. I'm sure you said it. Millet uses only a few colors. He uses the colors blue, green, and white. What I'd like you to do is point to one area in the drawing that has a lot of color. Are you pointing? Do you notice how most of the color is in the trees and the people? What I'd like you to do now is point to an area that has very little color. I'm sure you noticed this. There is a lot of space with no color, so you can see the paper underneath. Now, let's think about this. How did Van Gogh use color in this image? Think. Share what you noticed with a learning partner. Now, you may have noticed that Van Gogh uses a lot of blue, green, and white, and that most of the background is white, yellow, and green. And the people's blue clothing stands out against the background. Another thing is Van Gogh covers the entire painting with color, so we can't see what's underneath. All right, now let's compare the use of colors in these two works of art. What similarities and differences do you see? Maybe you see some similar colors like blue, green, and white. And maybe you thought about how Van Gogh's painting includes brighter colors than the Millet drawing. Now, let's think about how Millet and Van Gogh use color to show what's important in the image. I would like you to point to a part of each image that you think is important. Did you point to the people? You may have noticed that both Van Gogh and Millet use blue on the people. That makes the people stand out. Both artists use blue in the people's clothing. So we've noticed that both artists use color to draw attention to the family in the artwork. So I wonder if these pieces of art are telling me that family is important. All right, so now that you had a chance to revisit the artwork, let's take a look at the question that is framing our work for today. And that question is, what does looking at characters reveal to us? So today you'll be looking more closely at the character Cendrillon. Now, in order to do that, you are going to look more closely at Cendrillon's actions and make an inference or guess about her character. Listen carefully as I read a passage from the text. When she was older, Cendrillon would come to the river each morning to do the family's laundry. Nothing was easy for her at home. All day she worked. Now, I want you to take a moment and quickly act out what Cendrillon is doing. Ready? Act it out. I wish I could have seen you. Did you act out how Cendrillon is working all day? She's doing the laundry and other chores for her family. On page 11, the text tells us that Cendrillon works very hard for her family. And from these actions, what can you infer or guess about Cendrillon's traits? In other words, what is Cendrillon like? Think. Share with your learning partner or just share aloud. These actions show that Cendrillon is very hardworking, and we can infer from Cendrillon's actions that she is hardworking. Okay, let's look closely at another of Cendrillon's actions and make an inference about her character. Listen as I read a passage from the text where Nanine is talking to Cendrillon after the fete. Alas, Nanine said, my plans have come to nothing. I cannot give you the gift of a love that would change your life for true. Dear godmother, Cendrillon said, kissing my cheek, you gave me this night. It is enough. Now what I'd like you to do is explain to a learning partner what Cendrillon is doing and saying in this part of the text. Did you explain that Cendrillon is thanking Nanine for sending her to the fete even though things did not turn out the way they had hoped? Now on page 32, Cendrillon thanks Nanine for sending her to the fete. From these actions, what can you infer or guess about Cendrillon's traits? In other words, what is Cendrillon like? Think. Now share with a learning partner or just share aloud. I wonder, did you share how these actions show that Cendrillon is thankful? She is grateful that she was able to go to the fete even if it did not turn out to be all that she had hoped for. So we can infer from Cendrillon's words and actions that she is thankful. Okay, we're going to look closely at one more of Cendrillon's actions and make an inference about her character. Remember, at the end of the story, Paul finds Cendrillon in an old cotton dress. I want you to listen carefully as I read what Cendrillon said when Nanine tapped Cendrillon with her wand and made her appear as she did that night at the ball. Listen carefully. No, godmother dear, Cendrillon said. No more spells. With a sigh, Nanine touched her again, and she was, as before, in her shift and shawl. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to act out what Cendrillon is doing and saying in this part of the text. Are you ready? Act it out. Okay, so on page 36, the text tells us that Cendrillon does not want to use magic to look rich or more beautiful. She wants Paul to see her in her regular clothes. So from these actions, what can you infer about Cendrillon's traits? In other words, what is Cendrillon like? Think. Now, share with your learning partner or just share aloud. I wish I could have heard what you shared, but I bet you probably said that these actions show that Cendrillon is honest. She does not want to seem like a rich girl in a fancy dress when she is not one. So we can infer from Cendrillon's words and actions that she is honest. Okay, let's review the traits we inferred about Cendrillon. We know that she works hard for her family, which shows that Cendrillon is hardworking. Cendrillon is grateful to have gone to the fete, which shows that Cendrillon is thankful. Cendrillon wants Paul to see her in her regular clothes, which shows that she is honest. If you need to, pause the video to take a moment to stretch or take a quick break. When you're done, unpause the video.